What if the person everyone mocks, the one they laugh at, ignore, and call foolish, was actually the smartest one in the entire room? Imagine being laughed at every single day, not because you're wrong, but because you're too smart to show your hand. You see, there's a quiet kind of intelligence that doesn't seek attention. It doesn't yell, doesn't argue, doesn't try to prove anything. It simply watches, waits, and wins when no one's looking. Today's story will change the way you think about wisdom, silence, and success, because sometimes the people who look the most foolish are the ones playing the smartest game of all. And by the time this story ends, you'll see why real power never rushes to explain itself. In a distant kingdom, far from the noise of the world, lived a man known not for his strength, but for his mind. He was the king's most trusted advisor, a minister whose wisdom had solved everything from war strategies to trade disputes. His words carried weight. His presence commanded respect. The king wouldn't make a single important decision without first seeking the minister's counsel. Whether it was matters of law, diplomacy, or even palace affairs, the minister's opinion was law even before it was spoken. But as his influence grew, so did the whispers. Not everyone in the royal court admired him. Behind the polished smiles and respectful nods, envy brewed. Other officials, nobles, and power-hungry men had spent years trying to earn the king's trust, only to watch it handed daily to one quiet, unassuming man. They couldn't challenge him directly. His wisdom was undeniable, his record flawless. But where they couldn't touch the minister, they found a new target, one much easier to ridicule. Someone they could all agree to laugh at without ever saying a word. His son, the boy, was quiet, not arrogant, not loud, and certainly not interested in impressing anyone. He often wandered the palace grounds alone, unnoticed by most, until one day the king took a particular interest. It started casually, during his morning walks. Among the people, the king would see the boy standing nearby, watching the guards, listening to the marketplace chatter. One day, out of curiosity, or perhaps amusement, the king approached him and asked a simple question. "Tell me, which is more valuable, gold or silver?" Without hesitation, the boy answered, "Silver." The king blinked, then laughed. It was a ridiculous answer, at least to everyone else. Word spread quickly through the palace. The wise minister's son didn't even know basic value. The next morning, the king asked again. Same question, same answer, silver. And once again, laughter echoed through the royal halls. It became a running joke. Every day, the king would ask. Every day, the boy would answer silver. And every day, the court would laugh louder than before. To them, it was comedy. To the boy, it was something else entirely. To the king, this was harmless entertainment. To the courtiers, it was proof the minister's wisdom hadn't passed down to his son. But to the boy, it was opportunity, quietly disguised as humiliation. Every morning, like clockwork, the king would walk up with a smile, place 2 coins in front of the boy, 1 gold, 1 silver, and ask the same question, which is more valuable. And each time, without fail, the boy would reach for the silver coin and say, "Silver." It was always the same routine. The question, the answer, the laughter, and the boy, completely unbothered, would take the silver coin and walk away. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still the pattern didn't change. No one questioned it. No one noticed the boy never flinched, never seemed confused, never even tried to correct himself. He just kept choosing silver. as if it was all part of a plan only he understood. From the outside, it looked like ignorance, but from the inside, it was something far more calculated. The turning point came when the laughter reached the king's chamber. One day, after the usual joke played out and the court enjoyed its daily dose of mockery, the king turned to the minister and said, "You're a wise man, but your son, he's a fool." The room went silent. The minister stood there, caught between duty and disbelief. He didn't argue. He didn't defend his son. He simply bowed his head and went home. That evening, he sat across from his son and asked calmly, "Tell me honestly, which is more valuable, gold or silver?" Without a moment's pause, the boy replied, "Gold, of course." The minister narrowed his eyes. "Then why do you tell the king every day that silver is more valuable?" What the boy said next silenced even his father. He spoke softly, with a strange kind of calm that didn't belong to someone his age. "Every morning, the king offers me a choice. One gold coin, one silver. If I say gold is more valuable and pick it, the game ends. He'll stop asking, and when he stops asking, I stop receiving." He stood up, walked to the corner of his room, and pulled out a small wooden box. Opening it slowly, he revealed something that made his father's eyes widen. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of neatly stacked silver coins shimmered inside. "Rather earn one silver coin a day, every day," the boy said, "than take one gold coin once and lose everything that follows." The minister stood in stunned silence, staring at the box of silver coins. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a game. This was a strategy built on patience, self-control, and an understanding of people far beyond the boy's years. The boy looked up at his father and said something that would stay with him forever. "The king laughs because he thinks I'm a fool, but I'm not playing his game to impress him. I'm playing to win." Quietly, he continued, "Most people would grab the gold coin once just to prove they were right, just to silence the laughter. But I'm not interested in being right for a moment. I'm interested in building something that lasts." This was more than cleverness. This was wisdom that didn't need validation. It was the kind of intelligence that didn't mind being misunderstood, as long as it stayed focused on the bigger picture. The court thought he was losing, but every silver coin stacked in that box said otherwise. He hadn't just tricked the king, he'd outwitted the entire kingdom, and he did it by doing the one thing no one expected. He kept quiet and kept choosing wrong. The minister looked at his son, but not with the eyes of a father anymore. For the first time, he saw him as something else, a strategist, a thinker, a quiet master of patience who would learn to win without making noise. And in that moment, it hit him. Sometimes, true intelligence doesn't look like confidence. It looks like silence. It looks like foolishness to those who can't see the full picture. The people in the court, they saw only the surface. They laughed at the answers, mocked the boy's simplicity, but none of them had thought to ask why he always answered the same way. None of them had paused long enough to notice that while they were laughing, he was collecting. The minister felt a wave of pride, not because his son had tricked the king, but because his son had done something most people in power never learn. He chose discipline over ego, delayed gratification over quick victory, wisdom over recognition. From that day on, whenever someone called his son foolish, the minister didn't defend him. He didn't argue. He just smiled and walked away, because he knew the people who truly understand the game never need to explain their moves. The world loves to judge what it doesn't understand. To most people, being quiet looks weak. Being misunderstood feels like failure, and not defending yourself. That's seen as surrender. But the boy understood something they didn't, something most people never learn. The loudest voice doesn't always win. The smartest person isn't always the one speaking. And the strongest move is sometimes the one you don't make. He didn't fight back. He didn't correct anyone. He just kept showing up, kept making the wrong choice, and kept collecting silver coins while the crowd laughed. They saw a fool, but what they were really watching was a masterclass in patience, strategy, and self-control. And isn't that true in life? Some people spend all their energy trying to prove themselves. They chase validation, argue with critics, show off every win, but others, they move in silence. They let the world think whatever it wants, while they quietly build something no one sees coming. At the end of the day, the boy didn't need anyone's approval. He didn't need applause. He didn't need the court's respect or the king's validation. He had something far more powerful: clarity. He knew who he was. He knew what he was doing. And he understood that you don't need to be seen as wise to actually be wise. That's the part most people miss. Real success. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, and it doesn't panic when misunderstood. It waits, it watches, it builds. One quiet move at a time. So let them laugh. Let them misunderstand you. Let them think you're slow, foolish, or behind. Because if you're focused, if you're consistent, if you're quietly making the right choices, your results will speak louder than their opinions ever could. And when they finally notice, it'll be too late to catch up.